Susan stood frozen in front of the mirror, staring at a reflection she barely recognized. The face staring back at her was the same, yet completely different. Her eyes were tired, hollow, and filled with self-doubt. Her mother's voice thundered in her mind, "You're nothing. You're a failure." It echoed, louder than the honking horns outside her window. Her heart sank under the weight of those words. At just 20, she had everything she was supposed to have: a degree, a promising future. Yet here she was, rejected, unnoticed, and crushed by the expectations of the world. Her dreams, her life, were slipping through her fingers, and she couldn't stop it. But tonight, something inside her cracked. A chance encounter with an old friend, Maria, offered her a way out. It wasn't just a job. It wasn't just another career. It was freedom. A way to break free from the suffocating failures, from the unrelenting disappointment of her mother. But the price? The cost was steep. Could Susan escape the trap of her mother's judgment? Or would she pay the ultimate price to gain the life she so desperately craved? What happens when a dream comes with a dark price? Would you be willing to pay it? Susan didn't know it yet, but in that moment, she was standing on the edge of a decision that would change everything. Susan's world had crumbled quietly, piece by piece, and she hadn't even realized how far she had fallen until the silence of her apartment screamed louder than any rejection. At 20, she should have been celebrating, a fresh graduate, top of her class, ready to take on the world. But instead, the world had rejected her before she even had a chance to prove herself. Her mother's voice, harsh, disappointed, relentless, echoed through her thoughts. "You're a failure, Susan. What have you done with your life?" The weight of her mother's words, the rejections that never seemed to end, and the creeping feeling that she was always one step behind others, made Susan feel like she was suffocating. She had been trying so hard to prove she was enough, but every door slammed shut, and the dream she'd held so tightly to was slipping through her fingers. But when a text from Maria, her old friend, the one who always seemed to have everything figured out, appeared on her phone, a tiny flicker of hope sparked. "I can show you a way out," Maria had promised, with a cryptic invitation that offered more than just a casual reunion. What Maria had to offer wasn't just a job, it wasn't just a career. It was freedom, and it came with a price. Susan didn't know it yet, but in that moment, she was standing on the edge of a decision that would change everything. The question wasn't if she would make the choice, but how much she was willing to lose to finally escape the suffocating life her mother had trapped her in. Could she escape the pain of being stuck, or would she risk losing herself entirely? And so, Susan walked toward her fate, unaware of how much it would cost her. But once you step onto a path like that, there's no turning back. Her mother's voice echoed in her head, louder than the honking horns outside. "You're a failure, Susan. Look at your friends. They're doing better than you. What are you doing with your life?" She had heard this before. Her mother's voice was always a nagging presence in the background, reminding her that no matter how much she tried, it would never be enough. But today felt different. Today, the weight of her mother's disappointment was suffocating. She had a degree, she had the skills, but the world wasn't giving her a chance. It wasn't just her qualifications that were being ignored. It was her looks, her body. Every interview felt like they were trying to sell her something she wasn't willing to give. Every time she said no, she felt smaller. "I can't keep doing this," Susan whispered to herself. Susan stared at the message for a moment, wondering if this would just be another ordinary catch-up. But as the taxi slowed to a stop in front of the cafe, she felt something stir in her chest, a spark of hope, or maybe fear. When Susan walked into the cafe, she spotted Maria sitting by the window. Maria was everything Susan remembered, poised, confident, dressed in the kind of clothes Susan could never afford. "Susan," Maria said brightly, standing up to hug her, "it's so good to see you." As they sat down, they exchanged pleasantries, but Susan could feel that something was off. There was a sharpness in Maria's eyes that hadn't been there before. She wasn't the carefree friend Susan once knew. Maria studied Susan for a moment, her eyes flicking over Susan's tired face, the heavy bags under her eyes, and the defeated slouch in her posture. "You've been looking a little worn out," Maria said, her tone casual but with an edge to it. "How's everything been?" Susan forced a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Same old, just trying to figure things out, you know?" Maria raised an eyebrow, leaning in closer. "Trying to figure things out? Susan, you've got it all. The brains, the looks, the potential. But you're wasting it. You're stuck. You know that, right?" Susan blinked, surprised by the harshness in Maria's words. "What do you mean?" Maria's lips curled into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I mean you're working harder than anyone else, but you're still stuck in the same place. Don't you want more? I can show you a way out." Susan's pulse quickened. "A way out?" Maria nodded, her eyes glinting with something Susan couldn't quite place. "You've got everything you need. The world's not going to give you a job based on your degree. It doesn't care about that. But it does care about what you've got to offer. You're wasting your potential." Susan frowned, trying to make sense of what Maria was saying. "What are you talking about?" Maria leaned in even closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You're beautiful, Susan, and that's worth more than any degree. I'm doing well now, living the life I always wanted. And I can show you how to get there too. All you need to do is say yes." Susan's stomach churned, a cold shiver running down her spine. "Say yes to what?" Maria's eyes hardened. "Say yes to the truth. There's a business I'm involved in. It's not what people tell you to do, but it's real, and it works. You don't have to beg for a job. You can have everything, the money, the cars, the freedom. All you need is to use what you've got. You have everything to succeed. You just need to stop pretending like you don't." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Susan's heart raced. The idea of a life without rejection, without failure, without the constant weight of her mother's expectations, it was too tempting to ignore. "Are you saying—" Susan's voice faltered. "Are you saying I should sell myself?" Maria's smile didn't falter. "That's exactly what I'm saying." Susan felt like the ground was slipping out from under her. Her mind was spinning. This was not the future she had imagined for herself. This wasn't what her mother had dreamed of, but it was something, and something at this point felt like everything. "I don't know," Susan whispered, her voice breaking. Maria's smile softened. "Don't think about it too much, Susan. Think about what you want. You deserve better than this endless cycle of rejection. I can help you." For the first time in months, Susan felt the glimmer of hope. Maria's words echoed in her mind as she left the cafe. What choice did she have? What was the alternative? The first night was a blur of anxiety and excitement. Maria had arranged everything for her: the man, the location, the deal. It felt surreal. This wasn't Susan's life. This wasn't who she had wanted to be. But the allure of the life Maria promised was too strong to resist. The hotel room was cold, sterile. The man barely looked at her as he handed her the money. his touch cold and impersonal. The transaction was quick, not even a kiss, just business. Susan's stomach churned as she left the room. What had she done? The money was real, but it felt dirty, like a weight on her soul. She stuffed the cash into her bag and left the hotel without looking back. When she came home, her mother didn't ask how she'd earned the money. She didn't blink when Susan handed it over. She just took it, counted it, and smiled. "This is it, Susan. Finally, you're doing something with your life. This is what I've been waiting for." Susan stood frozen, her mother's praise ringing in her ears. The weight of what she had just done, the price she had paid for her mother's approval, hit her all at once. She didn't feel victorious, she felt empty. But her mother was proud of her, finally. Weeks passed, and Susan's life began to take a darker turn. The money kept coming in, the car, the designer clothes. Her mother's praise grew louder, more insistent. But something inside Susan felt empty. Every night, as she drove her new car through the city streets, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was losing herself. Her mother never asked questions. She only praised Susan for what she saw as success. "Look at you, Susan, you've got it all. This is what you should have been doing all along." But each time Susan looked in the mirror, she didn't recognize the woman staring back. She had sacrificed her soul for approval. The money, the car, the praise, none of it filled the void inside her. She spent her nights with men, her days hiding from the world. Drugs became a part of her routine, the only way to numb the guilt. Every time she closed her eyes, the life she had once dreamed of seemed further away. But she couldn't stop. Maria had promised her this was the way out. She had made her choice. As the weeks turned to months, Susan sank deeper into the world Maria had shown her. The men grew more dangerous, the risks greater. But the money kept flowing in. She bought more, partied harder, and buried the fear deep inside. Then came the man who promised her everything. More money than she'd ever seen, more freedom, more luxury. But the price was steep. The ritual was unlike anything she had experienced. It was dark, dangerous, and final. The man didn't just want her body, he wanted her soul. And she gave it to him, thinking she had no choice. It wasn't until Susan felt the cold emptiness of the ritual that she realized how far she had fallen. Her body, her soul, nothing was hers anymore. Her mother finally noticed the changes. Her tired eyes, the hollow expression on her face. She had become a stranger in her own home. "Susan," her mother asked, her voice shaking with concern, "what's happening to you? Where's my daughter?" For the first time, Susan broke down. The truth poured out. The lies, the abuse, the darkness. "I've lost myself, Mom. I'm not who you thought I was." Her mother's face crumpled in guilt. "I pushed you, Susan. I didn't see it. I pushed you to be something you weren't. And now look at you." It was too late. Susan had lost herself to the very thing her mother had demanded she be. Successful, accomplished, but at the cost of her dignity. And now, all she had was regret. If you felt the weight of Susan's choices, if you've ever been caught between a dream and the price of that dream, hit that like button. Comment below. Would you take the same path to escape judgment, or would you walk away? Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that make you question what you'd sacrifice for success. Because once you choose, there's no turning back.